Hello students and welcome back for this geography session on the topic of interpreting the topographical maps. As we have already discussed about the topographical maps and its features, then the Survey of India who initiated the topography and the topographical maps skills, we came to know about the grid square which is formed with the help of northings and eastings. We discussed and we understood about the contour lines which are the connecting all the points at the same elevation. We understood about the significance of colors and conventional signs and symbols which are used in topographical maps. Without colors and signs and symbols, the topographical maps are difficult to interpret. So today in this video session, let's discuss and understand about the settlement patterns, transport and communication. As we have already discussed about the significance of the colors on the topographical maps, without colors, it will become very difficult to identify the features or to specify each and every region on the topo sheets. So colors play very important role on the topo sheets. And in today's session, we are going to discuss about the settlements which are shown with the red color. So let's know about the settlements, different patterns. Settlements actually are groups of houses, usually in villages or towns, where people live. The size of settlements depend on the availability of roads, railways, hospitals, police stations, and administrative buildings, or rest houses, and so many things. So, settlements grow over a period of time. Many factors determine the location and the type of settlements. So here you can see there are three kinds of settlements, that is nuclear, linear and scattered. And red color used in the topographical maps to show the settlements. So So let's repeat that what are the factors which determine the location and the type of settlements. So as I told you that the availability of roads, railways, hospitals, police stations, rest houses, administrative buildings. Apart from that, settlements grow in areas that are flat where the land is cultivable. Means people are able to do all kinds of agricultural activities as food is the basic need for human being. Then settlements do not grow on any kind of steep hillside or marshy land where cultivation is not possible. Secondly, settlements grow in the places where water is available in plenty for both agricultural and domestic purposes. Settlements therefore also grow on the confluence of rivers, on the banks of rivers or on the banks of rivers. So confluence means where the main river which meet to the another small river or stream or tributary, or two main rivers when they join to each other, that place is known as confluence. So if you see that these different kinds of settlements like nucleated or the linear or disperse, any kind of settlement, the basic factors which are important for the location of the settlement or for the development of the settlement, that are availability of the important things for settlement. Now if you remember in the last lecture, we come across to the permanent hut and temporary hut. So these settlements, they may be the permanent or the temporary. And this is the symbol which is used for permanent houses and for the temporary houses. Now, settlements that are constructed and occupied for a short time, they are called as temporary settlements. Temporary settlements are built by people who engaged generally in hunting and gathering, or shifting cultivation or transhumance. So the people, those who live generally in forested areas or the tribal community. Tents and huts are the most common forms of shelter in temporary settlements, where they may be shifting from one place to another. At times, a temporary settlement is built next to a construction site, such as a bridge or a flyover, right? Then, however, this form of temporary settlement is usually found in an urban area. A temporary settlement can become permanent with time. Means the people, those who are working on the construction sites. So, when the construction gets over, they may shift to the another area where they will get a new construction job or new job for their livelihood. But this temporary settlement can also become permanent with time if they get the permanent job. Now, in permanent settlement, if you see the permanent settlements, people built permanent houses. In course of time, several several such structures are constructed and a settlement gets developed. Now, the availability of water, land for cultivation, these are the basic two reasons for the growth of such permanent settlements. In addition, there is availability of communication lines such as roads, railways, and other facilities such as police station, post office, hospitals, then health centers, market, shopping malls, educational sources or institutions. So, uh, in that areas, you can say city or urban areas, the permanent huts are settled or developed. Now again I would like to repeat about the conventional sign and symbols which is used for these man-made features or settlements. So permanent hut, which is shown again with the red color, the shaded box, because these are permanent houses, people are settled over there, right? And the next, that is the empty box, which is shown for temporary hut, because they shift from one place to another. It depends on their job security. The next, that is the deserted town, which is generally absent on the topo sheet. Now, this permanent or temporary hut or temporary settlements, they have different types or patterns. The first, that is nucleated. Nucleated are the settlements. They are also known as the clustered, when so many houses they are grouped together, and such kind of settlements can be found close to a railway station, a confluence, a quarry, or mining place, or any industrial site. In short, the places where the development has already taken place, such as educational sources are available, transport and means communication available, and shopping malls, industrial job security is there, where surely the people gets settled down. So that kind of settlement is known as nucleated, and generally we find this kind of settlement in urban areas or cities. The next comes, that is the linear. Right. Now, these are the settlements which usually developed on either side of a main road or a river with a view to provide services. For example, if you see on the highway, we get dhabas, then some restaurants and shops are available. So, people those who are traveling on the highways, they bore down and they take the rest at the dhabas. That time, such kind of settlements, that is known as linear settlement. The next comes, that is the scattered or dispersed. Now in this, the permanent huts and hutments, they are isolated or scattered, and this develop in the large area of sparse population. Now again, I would like to tell you one thing, that on a topographical maps, all settlements are shown by symbols in red. Now the dense settlements generally we find in which areas, that are fertile plains where agricultural activities can be conducted, or maybe wide river valleys. Then the second, we find that sparse settlements means forested or desert areas, arid, semi-arid areas, mountainous regions, then the plateaus region or hilltops with poor vegetation. So that can be scattered settlements. The next point that is also important, that is absence of settlements in which areas. So swampy, marshy land, then sandy, too much sandy desert like sums, then thick, impenetrable forests, then flood prone areas, steep mountain slopes. Generally, we do not find the settlements over there. Now, early settlers forming villages would often live together for safety, for friendship, and to share services. These early settlements would take on distinctive patterns based on the shape of the land around them. Here, we can see some examples of different settlements patterns, which I have already told you. Now let's know more about the each settlement. So let's start with the nucleated settlements. So if you can see how it is shown on the topographical maps, the cluster or they are grouped together. A nucleated settlement pattern refers to the grouping of many houses around a center called a nucleus. They grow in size to form a market town in the rural area too. Then they get developed at road intersections, focal points of an area, or confluences of rivers. Towns and cities may develop into urban centers and increase in number of functions. So it was about the nucleated settlements. So let's take one small recap again about the nucleated settlement. That the nucleated settlement we find where the two or three roads meet, means roads and transport communication is available. Then we have some religious features that is also available, maybe church, temple. Then we have some administrative buildings, government offices are there, all facilities are available. There might be a train station, or there may be a pub, shopping mall, right? So that are nucleated settlements. And the nucleated, how it is shown on the topo sheet. So one picture which shows about the aerial view of the nucleated or clustered settlements. So what is nucleated settlement? Grouping of many houses crammed together around the nucleus, that is center, and the range of sizes, that is small town to large cities. And development of nucleated settlements, how it is? Around a favorable site, that can be junction, that can be market, or maybe the confluence of the river. Now let's know about the linear settlements. Linear settlement pattern that refers to the grouping of houses along a line. It may be railway track, it may be the highway. uh, it is shown in the next picture that tend to follow roads, railway tracks along the coast or a river. And generally, this settlement is uh, developed for some seasonal festivals or businesses. Then it provide good transport and communication network, which is found in rural or maybe in urban areas. So again, linear settlements is what? Grouping of houses along a line, along transport routes, coasts, river banks. Development of linear settlements that takes place along transport routes to access the travelers along the way or maximize the transport route. And it is mostly found in both rural and urban areas. Now the another type of settlement, that is the dispersed settlements. Dispersed settlements, that is also known as the scattered settlements. Houses or huts in this type of settlement are far apart from one another. On the map, such settlement is indicated by long distances between houses. Areas of scattered settlement indicate sparse population and the absence of proper roads. Houses or huts are usually connected by cart tracks or paths. In dispersed settlements, cattle rearing is common business as each household has the cattle and that is allowed to graze in the open fields. Also, the land is not that much fertile to support big populations. So, this is about the dispersed or scattered settlements. You can see in the picture that how it looks on the topo map or aerial view, that is also shown over here. So again, I'll repeat that the dispersed settlements means the scattering of houses, large land area coverage, and they are generally found in hilly areas, large expanses of land, and the main business, that is agricultural activity. So now this picture shows the linear development in the Amazon rainforest. This is completely the aerial view and the topo sheet view. The deforestation in the rainforest is started by building a road deep into the forest. Then farmers settle along the road. They chop down the trees and extend their fields away from the road. So in this way, this is getting developed here near the Amazon rainforest. Now this is the time to practice the settlement questions on the topo sheet. So how the questions are asked. So if you see that the question is asked that what kind of settlement pattern is found in grid square 9795 and another grid square that is 9792. So grid square, that already you have learned that grid square is made up of eastings and northings, 4 grid reference and 6 grid reference. So let's find out the settlement pattern in 9795. So in this topo sheet, if you find that 97 and 95, if you see, this is the settlement pattern and they are grouped together. So this is the cluster, or you can say nucleated 7 settlement pattern over here in the grid 97 979 9795. Now the another question, the grid square, that is 9792. So here you can see that 9792, right? So if you find that which kind of settlement, they are very far from each other, right? So this is the disperse kind of settlement over here. So let's cross check the answers. Yes, disbursements, you can say that scattered kind of settlement over here. So in this way, the questions are generally asked in the exam about the settlement pattern. Now, the next topic, that is the means of communication, transport and means of communication. So here some examples are railway, metal road, unmetalled road, car track, pack track, and footpath. So in this way, they are shown these black lines, the red lines, right? So they are shown about the modes of the communication. Railway, again, we will understand about the three railway tracks or gauges given on the topo sheet. So now, which conventional sign and symbols are used to represent of transport and communication or roads on the topo sheet? So here you can see that metalled roads, which are also known as pakka road, they are tarred roads. Okay, so they always shown in the red color, and the double lines, that is the sign. Their presence indicates the development of trade in the region. A number written beside the road shows a milestone. The second comes, that is the unmetalled road, right? Now metalled road, that indicates the developed region, as I told you, and unmetalled, that is the kacha road, maybe villages and small towns. Such roads are not tarred and indicate a village, and obviously they indicate a village or undeveloped region. And again the red color, and with two parallel lines separated from each other or in dashes. The next comes, that is the pack track. Now what is pack track? That is also known in Hindi, it is known as pagdandi. It is a path made by constant use by men or animals to travel. It is also shown in this broken line. The next comes that is the cart track. Cart track, that is the path little broader than pack track, made by bullock carts. Generally, this cart track we find in villages or small towns. The next comes that is the footpath. Footpath along with a bridge. It is a temporary path made by men to cross a region, shown by a single dotted line in red color. Now, in the topo sheet, uh, two more important factors that is also important: embankment and the causeway. Now, what is called embankment? Embankment means what? This is a kind of constructions on the ground. They are raised constructions built on the ground. They are often used to prevent flood waters from entering the lands. Road and railway tracks are built on these embankments since the ground below is too soft to support a road or a railway track. So this is the sign which is used for embankment. Many a times embankment and causeway, that is all written on the topo sheet. The next feature, that is causeway. It is a raised road of platform across water or a minor stream. Its presence indicates areas of scanty or seasonal rainfall. It is found mostly in dry regions around streams and rivers. On topo sheet, generally it is shown by the tiny curved black line. Okay. So we should not get confused among the terms like embankment, causeway, bridges, and dams, check dams, and reservoirs. So as I told you that roads and railway tracks are often built on the embankments since the ground below is too soft to support a road or a railway track. So before that, we should understand what is exactly the railway tracks and what is called the railway gauges. So gauge means what? The maximum distance between the running faces of the two rails of a permanent way, that is known as railway gauge or gauge. Right. Now, this is very, very important modes of transport. Meter gauge railway, and the sign also is shown in front of that, right? And the metalled road, that is tarred road and unmetalled road. Okay. So there are three major types of gauges in India. That is broad gauge. So how much distance is covered between two railway tracks? That is 1.67 meter, means 70% that is covered. The second comes that is meter gauge, right? 1 meter and 23%, that much distance is covered. And the next, that is the narrow gauge, generally which is used in hilly areas. Narrow gauge. Now the broad gauge. This railway track is generally used for the passengers and even the goods for trades to shift from one place to another, from one state to another, from one city to another. That is the broad gauge. And this is mostly used. Then the meter gauge also most of the times used for passengers also and the goods also. The next comes that is the narrow. As I told you, it is used in hilly areas, especially when we visit the hill stations. So the by the tourism department, that is used only for tourists. So to travel through the hilly areas and enjoy that ambience of the nature, this narrow gauge, uh, generally in the areas like Dehradun, Mathiran, in these areas, these trains are called as toy trains also. So this was about the modes of transport and railway tracks. So again, I would like to repeat about the sign and symbols which are used. Black color is used to show all these broad gauge, meter gauge and narrow gauge on the topo sheet. So students, today you have learned about very important features like kinds of settlements and the transport and communication on the topo sheets. Regular study is very much required for the for this topography map lesson, and it will be helpful for you to score good marks in exams. So Let's meet in the another video session. Till then, thank you and have a nice day ahead.